We've gone through a few if-else statements, but now it's finally time to learn how they actually work. You know about comparison operators and logical operators, but you don't know quite how to use them, and we're going to cover this. How it works is that we have an open and close tag, just like all JavaScript goes between our script tag unless in an external file. In an external file, we don't use the script tags. Then we have a variable declaration. We just wrote color is equal to blue. Then for our if statement, we have if parentheses, brackets, color is equals to blue, then it's going to execute our code. But first, after our parentheses, we have to have an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. Right now I'm going to tell you that those curly brackets are absolutely mandatory, so get used to using them. Case sensitivity, remember? JavaScript is case sensitive, so an if statement with capital letters is not the same as an if statement with lowercase letters. All if statements are lowercase. An if statement is how the language asks if something is true. JavaScript will always look for the true statements. If what you ask becomes false, it will skip your if statement and move on to the next step. As an example, we have variable year is equal to 2013. If year is equals to, so if year is equals to 2013, it's going to execute our code that we write in here. And that's because this is true. We declared this, we checked it, the check turned out to be correct, as long as it's 100% true. So in this case, it can't be half true, half wrong, however you want to say it. This is true, so our code will run. Now that's unless you specify an OR statement. We'll touch on this in a sec. As a larger example, we have two variables here. We have year is equal to 2013, that's same as above. And then we have car is equal to Audi. So if year is equal to 2013 and, that's a logical operator, car is equal to Audi, then our code in here will be executed. Both of these have to be true because we use the AND operator. So is year 2013? Yes, it is. Is car Audi? Yes, it is. Basically, what we ask is 2013 from up here and Audi from here. So if both of these match up, then it's true, and this code will execute. Next, if we tried year is equal to 2013 and car is equal to Benz, then it should run our code. But it's not going to run our code because what we said with the AND operator is that both comparisons have to be true. Well, year is equal to 2013, so that's true, we know that. But is car equal to Benz? No, it's not. Car is equal to Audi. So this is only half right because this one is right and the second comparison is wrong. So 1 out of 2 is 50%. JavaScript needs 100% to run. So it's not going to run this. The third example we have here is year is equal to 2013 again. Or, instead of using AND, we're using OR. Car is equal to Lambo. So as long as one of these is true, then our code will execute. Well, is year equal to 2013? Yes. Is car equal to Lambo? No. Car is equal to Audi. So this will still run because 1 out of the 2 is correct. And this is the only exception. If we use an OR statement, then JavaScript does not look for a 100% match or an answer that has to be 100% true. It's just looking for one of the two. If we had another one in here, variable is equal to 1, 2, 3, then it's looking for a 33.3% match. Or 1 out of 3 of these has to be true. If any of the 3 are true, then our code will run. If all 3 of them are wrong, our code will not run. And just one last example. If year is not equal to 2012 or car is equal to Audi, then we want it to run in here. We asked if year is not 2012, which it isn't. We set the year to be 2013. Basically what this is asking is year any other number except for 2012? Well, yes it is. It is a different number than 2012. What we asked was, is 2013 not equal to 2012? No, they're not the same. So both logic and you agree that this is not the same, so this is going to turn out to be true. or car is equal to Audi. Well, car is in fact equal to Audi, so this is true. Both comparisons turn out true, so this is going to run. Even if one of them turned out to be false, this is still going to run. Because we have two comparisons, only one of them needs to be right, because we used the OR operator. So although this can be difficult to grasp at first, it is mandatory that you know this. And you need to know that if everything inside of the brackets is true, it's going to run your code, unless specified with an OR operator. So everything in the brackets here, in the parentheses, I'm going to call the big picture. And with a big picture comes the ability to write code that filters through information. Essentially, that's what an if statement is. It's a filter. It allows you to filter through information and act upon it. Now let's look at an else statement. We can write hundreds of if statements to accomplish what we want, but that's a huge waste of time, especially if we want to check to see if a statement is true and execute some code if it is not true. Now yes, we can write an if statement asking if something is not true, then run this code. But we might have to do that a couple hundred times depending on the scenario, and we really don't want to do that. What we want is we want to ask if something is true, run it. In every other scenario, run some other code. And here's an example. We have variable favcar is equal to Audi. What we asked is if favcar is equal to Benz, then alert us with my favorite car is Mercedes. In every other scenario where favorite car does not equal Benz, it's going to alert us with my favorite car is Audi. So even if my favorite car turned out to be Ford, then it's still going to say my favorite car is Audi. So we're going to change that back to Audi, and now let's look at our example. My favorite car is Audi. Well, wrote that because favorite car is equal to Benz. That's false. If this is false, it's going to skip this and move on to the next one, the else statement. Now, you might notice that the else statement doesn't have any brackets, no parentheses. It's just by itself. It's just the word else by itself. But it does use the curly brackets. And inside the curly brackets is where your code is going to go. Now, this might be a little bit of a bizarre metaphor, but it's kind of like a child saying, if you're right, I'm living with dad. If you're wrong, I'm living with mom. Or, if I get 100% on this test or this exam that's coming up, I'm going to spoil myself. But if I get less than 100%, even if I get one answer wrong, then I'm going to crack down, I'm going to spend the entire weekend studying, and I'm not going to leave my room until I know I get 100%. Now, both are pretty extreme examples, but that's exactly what if and else is. If and else statements are yes or no statements, yes or no answers. Everything boils down to true or false, which means yes or no, right or wrong, 1 or 0, on or off. And in an if-else statement, there are no in-betweens, there are no maybes, there are no possibilities, there are no perhaps. It's either yes or no. Something is true, something is not true. Now, one more thing before we go on to the next class is the fact that I've been writing these a little bit more spaced out. You might see other people's code like this. I like to write my code a little bit more compact, but for now it's going to be nice and spaced out. And by spaced out, I mean that all the curly brackets are going to be on their own line. And this is just so it's easier for you to look at what's going on and identify with what's going on. In a few classes, when we get a little bit more familiar with if, else's, else-if statements, and we'll cover that next, then I'm going to start writing my code a little bit more compact, and it's going to look more like this, where this is our if statement, and directly after it is our else statement. But for now, you don't have to worry about that. This is just a heads up so that when you do see a little bit more compact code, you aren't wondering, hey, what the heck, man? And my recommendation is take a little bit of time, create your own variables. You know how to do this. You know how to compare a variable to a value. So write a few if-else statements and just play with it. Get to know what the difference between if favorite car is equal to Benz and if favorite car is not equal to Benz. If you want, try using greater than or equal to, or just greater than, or just less than. See how that works out, because that's trying to compare Audi is less than Benz. See what kind of answer that gives you. But play with it, because you need to know it because it is a vital part of any computer language is the if and else statement.